one of the things that we did that stands out in those areas is I purchased a couple of bagels. Now, for really mostly arbitrary reasons, I didn't eat a single bagel in 2019. It was part of a larger thing that we were doing, to an elimination diet, and it was one of the few things that stuck for the entire year. So now that we're doing the walks again, and especially through these neighborhoods, there are bagel stores. Another thing about our particular area is that there are no bagel stores for a mile and a half around, which seems obscene for New York City. But for whatever reason, there isn't. So I had a couple of bagels this week. I had an everything each time with scallion cream cheese. And Jesse and I, well, basically I talked at Jesse about the topic.
Yeah, I mean, if I could eat the bagel, I would have a lot more to say.
Yeah.
You have a lot of opinions about bagels. Just a quick tangent, do you remember when we finished our walk in Vermont and we landed in Montreal?
Yes.
And I think you had like 6 bagels in a row because you had to try. What did they have there? The Montreal bagel is just like a...
The Montreal bagel is a bagel that has an opinion on what it means to be a bagel.
Right.
And so a lot of people, if you're from Canada or Montreal, they think that the bagel in Montreal is superior to the New York bagel.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd never had a Montreal bagel, so I wanted to see what the story was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't 6, but it was 4. I had 4 bagels
was it 4?
In a span of 45 minutes, maybe.
We went to different places that all claimed to be, and like, visitor review, not books anymore, but the online version of that, claimed that these are the best bagels in Montreal, and we went to all of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very fun to listen to you review them.
I think that the bagels in Montreal are good enough to claim that they have a perspective.
Right.
But I don't think that they're necessarily better than New York bagels. And what I'll say about the Montreal bagels that I think is pretty significant as far as the cultural experience.
Yeah.
They do not, I don't even like calling it this, but they do not make bagel sandwiches.
No, they don't put any sort of like schmear or anything on
No.
it. It's just the bagel by itself.
It's a bakery, and you take the bagels away. So they were offering Philadelphia cream cheese. Like it's insulting.
I forgot how upset you were.
Yeah,
about that.
They were like basically it was like a roadside motel. They had these little capsules of cream cheese, and then they had lox, and they were individually wrapped lox like it was a piece of like a cutlet, chicken cutlet.
Well, the lox did look good. It wasn't just like branded like Costco lox or something.
Yeah.
It looked like, I don't know. It's hard to mess up lox, but
Just the fact that they were individually shrink wrapped, and then they give you this capsule of cream cheese, a pallet of lox, and then a plastic knife, and they're just like go nuts.
Yeah.
And so we went to the park, and I assembled. That was unacceptable.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just culturally, you buy the bagels and then you go home and you do whatever you want with them.
Right.
You don't, or I guess you can, they were good enough that you could just kind of eat it like a roll, walking around on the street. But
yeah, they weren't sliced either, were they?
No.
They were like popping them out. They had a little bagel conveyor belt that was just constantly flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Well, anyway, so that's some history on you liking to review bagels, and then you did it again this week.
This isn't so much a review as just a reflection on everything bagels in general. I feel like if an everything bagel doesn't have salt on it, what are you doing? There was, we went to 2 this week, and one was... It had poppy seed, it had sesame seed, it had garlic and onion. And that's like, okay, yeah, that's acceptable. But it did not have any salt, and then it's like, okay, this is fine. And then we went to another place, and it had salt. It also had oat, which is like an occasional thing you'll see on Everything Bagels. I think it's kind of like a meaningless flourish, but like that's fine. The thing that you really want to see on an Everything Bagel are rye seeds and or caraway seeds, because that is like the next tier of experience. But salt is a must. If you don't have salt, there's really no point.
Second bagel had salt, right?
The second bagel did have salt, so it reached the threshold.
Do you remember the name of the bagel place? Because
no, they were both on Fresh Pond Road.
Yeah. One was, the non-salt bagel was further east. The salted bagel was further west.
Yeah.
Better Bagel was west.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but ultimately...
it wasn't called Better Bagel. That does sound like a name of a bagel shop. But
one was like Wow Bagel, and the other one was something else.
Yeah, we're never going to remember.
No, not offhand. But, yeah, the only other thing I'll say is somewhere along the line, it became acceptable to ask if you want your bagel toasted. That is just, that I don't know. I think people from, that grew up on Lender's Bagels or something infiltrated the New York system.
I don't know what Lender's Bagels is.
They're just like basically like Thomas's English Muffin.
Oh, it's like a pack of bagels that you buy and
and you have to toast those. There's no way to eat them otherwise. I'm not opposed to the idea of toasting a bagel.
No.
But it's just, if you're making the bagels on site, there should never be a reason to toast them.
Because they should be fresh enough. They shouldn't need to be toasted. They shouldn't be dried out. You only have to toast a bagel if it's dried out, right?
Could you please stale my bagel a little bit? Thank you. No, there's no reason to do that. And ultimately, if you want a bagel, really the best bagel at a good bagel store is the hottest, freshest one.
Right.
It's not the preference of what bagel you like.
No, and that was funny. That was funny to me. The first bagel shop, the non-salted everything bagel shop, you asked them which bagels were hot, and they said none of them. They come out much earlier than this. And it was like 7:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, how early are they making their bagels for people? That means no one's ever getting a hot bagel. Nobody's coming there at like 6 in the morning as the bagels are coming out during a pandemic.
I think the pandemic is the key. I would go to bagel stores at 5:30 to get a bagel because I know that it's going to be hot.
Oh.
But
Is that standard? I just thought that they'd be whipping them out.
Well, I think that's the difference
batch.
Because of the pandemic.
Oh,
I don't think they're
not
making more.
as many.
Yeah. That was another thing about that
sense.
first bagel place.
All right, I'll give them a break.
Another thing about first bagel place. It seemed to have, what was it? I told you about it. That like yellow crust thing.
Oh, yeah, like a cornmeal thing you said.
Yeah, there was
dusting.
like some sort of cornmeal dusting on the bottom of the bagel, which has to be, I don't know, maybe because they were like baked, not boiled or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, to keep it from sticking to the thing.
But I'm not sure I'd ever seen that, so that was a little strange. So, yeah, I think that's probably the rant about bagels for now.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
That's sufficient. There may be future bagel reviews.
Oh, I'm sure there will. I mean, part of this is also like, I actually feel like this conversation is a big part of why we're doing this project. Like, you're from Long Island. You know bagels.
Yeah.
You know Long Island bagels, and it's very similar to New York bagels. And like, there's these little things that are so wrapped up into the culture here, and they're so silly and like, I mean, silly isn't the right word. They're just so minor, maybe, to people that aren't from this region.
Right.
They might come to New York and try any bagel and be like, oh, wow, a bagel. But for people that, of course, you grew up on Long Island, there's plenty of bagels around. I grew up close enough that, like, I understand a bagel. Yeah. We've also been here for long, and I can't eat them anymore, but I certainly ate my fair share when I could.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we all have these opinions on the little, like, minor details. And I do think that's a big part of what holds the city together. I have a feeling that no matter what neighborhood we go to within the 5 boroughs, we could ask somebody what they think of their bagels, and they would talk for as long as you just talked.
You're probably right. Yeah. If they're fortunate enough to even have a bagel place. Otherwise, it'll just be a rant about how there's no bagel place around.
Bagel place, exactly. Are we even in the city?
Yeah.